Tell us about it when you were a little girl.
Yes. Well, when I was a little girl in slave days, I always had something to do every day. Every day. I didn't have time to play very much at all. Because I myself was in the house for most of the time. In days like this, while we were outdoors, pulling up weeds, or picking up feathers where the chickens would all make them through the yard, or every day. And in cloudy days, while we were in the house, we had a big pan of sand, silver sand, and an old slipper.
Americans began publicly fighting legal and moral battles for civil rights. Men like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Attorney General Robert Kennedy, and Thurgood Marshall were tireless in their fight for civil rights. In August of 1963, over 200,000 supporters of civil rights, both black and white, marched on Washington, D.C. and gathered at the National Mall in front of the Lincoln Memorial. There they listened to uplifting speeches that supported and encouraged civil rights. In 1964, United States President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. In this landmark law, discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin was outlawed. Putting this law into action was not always easy, and at times had to be enforced with the help of police and military. That didn't change everyone's opinion of slavery and African Americans. Many white Southerners had been taught from infancy that black Americans were not as smart or important as white Americans. In 1866, a few white Southerners dressed in white sheets and pretended to be the ghosts of dead Confederate soldiers. They broke up a meeting of freed blacks. But what started out as a joke turned into a terrorist organization called the Ku Klux Klan. It was 101 years from the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Lincoln to the signing of the Civil Rights Act by President Johnson. The Klan became violent and went about intimidating, whipping, and killing blacks and white supporters of black equality. The Ku Klux Klan became popular with those who felt the white race was superior. They and other secret groups have reportedly killed 20,000 men, women, and children.
1525 to 1866, 12.5 million Africans were taken from their homeland and forcibly transported across the Atlantic, a journey that approximately 2 million of them would not survive. By the turn of the 18th century, European merchants were building vessels capable of transporting hundreds of enslaved people per journey. These ships had extra portholes for ventilation, weapons mounted on deck in case of rebellion, and additional compartments added below deck to take on more human cargo. Before boarding the ships at African port cities, enslaved people were stripped of their clothing and remaining possessions and had their heads forcibly shaved. During boarding, which could take weeks or even months, enslaved people lived on the deck of the ship in a temporary...
In the southern states, African Americans were segregated, meaning they were separated because of race. Even though the 13th and 14th Amendments were clear on civil rights, the southern states got around the constitutional laws by passing the Jim Crow laws. These laws and customs stated that it was constitutional to give blacks separate but equal treatment. The problem was the equal part was seldom identical to the whites' privileges and advantages. The Jim Crow laws specified that African Americans were only allowed to sit in the back of buses and had to ride in colored-only train cars. Blacks were not allowed to eat in all the same restaurants as whites. Blacks had to use separate bathrooms, drinking fountains, beaches, and park benches. White and black children could not attend the same schools.